In verse 17 to 19, it says, "Brethren, join in following my example, and observe those who walk according to the patterns you have in us. For many walk, of whom I often told you, and now tell you, even weeping, that they are enemies of the cross of Christ, whose end is destruction, whose God is their appetite, and whose glory is in their shame, who sets their mind on earthly things." So verse 17, "Brethren, join me in following my example." You know, during that time, it's very common for students to follow the example of their leaders. In fact, they were expected to follow the examples of their leaders. What happens is, if you're a student of a rabbi, and normally you're at least 10, that's why Jesus was called a rabbi, because he had 12 followers. If you had less than 10 followers, you can't be called a rabbi. You have to have at least 10 followers to be called a rabbi. And these people would follow that rabbi, and they would try to emulate. In fact, they have the saying that they desire that the dust of the rabbi falls upon them. Meaning, they were following the rabbi so intently that the dust of the sandals of the rabbi would fall into them. So the idea here is, when Paul is telling them to follow my example, that was expected of them. Now, what this does not mean is that Paul is not telling them to dress like him, to mimic him, to have the same voice, to have the same intonation, or to dress the same, or to have the same personality. You know, Paul was very conscious of the way he behaved. He was very aware that people were observing him. Go to 1 Corinthians, please. 1 Corinthians chapter 8. First Corinthians chapter 8, verse 9 to 13 says, "But take care that this liberty of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. For if anyone sees you who have knowledge, dining in an idol's temple, will not his conscience, if he is weak, be strengthened to eat things sacrificed to idols? For though your knowledge he who is weak is ruined, the brother for whose sake Christ died." Verse 12, "And so, by sinning against the brethren and wounding their conscience when it is weak, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if food cause my brother to stumble, I will never eat meat again, so that I will not cause my brother to stumble." You know, during that time, as long as you're knowledgeable, you know, people who are very knowledgeable in Scripture, people that are in position in government, and people that are wealthy, they consider themselves to be what? Spiritual. Simply because they have a good standing in society, they're considered spiritual. Why? Because their thinking is, that's the reason they're there. God is blessing them. So these people that are spiritual, quote unquote, because they have power, they have position, they have wealth, they could sin. They can do anything. They wouldn't care less. Why? Their wealth, their power is proof that they are spiritual. It is proof that they are close and doing the right thing. That's why God is blessing them. But Paul wants to be careful. He was very careful and was telling the church in Corinth, guys, we have to be careful on on what we do because other people might be stumbling. Other people might fall because of our behavior. And it's important to realize that we are representative of God. People look at us, especially us who claims to be follower of Christ, and they judge Christianity based on our behavior. So when Paul tells us, brethren, join in following my example, that's what I mean earlier when I say plagiarism is allowed. If there's something that you should plagiarize, if there's something that you should copy, if there's something that you should mimic, it's this. This is allowed. As much as copying, cheating, plagiarism is not allowed, especially in school, even in real life, but here, Paul is short of saying, guys, plagiarize me. Plagiarize my attitude. The attitude of pressing on. Follow my example. Go to 1 Timothy, please. 1 Timothy chapter 4. First Timothy chapter 4, verse 12 says, let no one look down on your youthfulness, but rather in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity. Show yourself an example of those who believe. As Christians, no matter knowingly or unknowingly, we are an example of what Christianity is. Everybody who claims to be a Christian is an example of what Christianity is. The only question that we need to ask is, are we a good example or a bad one? Because there is no escaping that you are, because you profess that you are. And in 1 Timothy, right, he says, show yourself an example of those who believe. Go to Titus chapter 2, please. Titus chapter 2, verse 7. Titus 2, verse 7 says, in all things, show yourself to be an example of good deeds, with purity in doctrine, dignified. Again, it's being reiterated here that we are to show ourselves as example. In Hebrews chapter 13, verse 7, and I'll read it. Remember those who led you, who spoke the words of God to you, and consider the results of their conduct, imitate their faith. You know, one of the good ways of, I don't know if anyone plays golf. If you're a golf, you know, ikaw basketball, I know, right? Ikaw volleyball, right? You play golf?
Ping pong.
Ping pong. Ping pong. Maglaban tayo. Medyo mag-ping pong ngayon. But the thing is, one of the best way in golf to improve your game is play with a good player. Why? You would see their behavior. You would see how they prepare. You would see their routine. You would see their attitude, their behavior. And normally, if you play with good players, guess what? Your game will improve. But if you start hanging out with bad players in golf, ay, forever kang bano. Lahat kayo, pag ganun, pa-happy-happy lang. But when you play with good golf players, you see them concentrate. You see them focus. You see them analyze. But if you're playing with bad players, wala lang. They just get a club and they hit and they laugh. And you tend to copy it. Right? But I ask myself, and I think it's a question that we need to ask ourselves, who are our spiritual idols? Not in the wrong way, right? But in the right way. We have to have that, I believe. People that we can look up and say, yeah, I want to follow him. If you hang out with people that curses, guess what? You will start cursing. I remember during high school, I normally pity people that are outcasts. I tend to pity them. And so, I noticed in Don Bosco, I thought, uso ba itong bakla? But there are a lot of gay there, and literally they get beaten up. And one day, I said, man, I'll hang out with them. Kasi naaawa ako. Awa naman to. Lahat, I'll hang out with them. So I hang out with them, blah, blah, blah. Then, two things happened. That's why I stopped. One day, I was talking to a friend, and I said, Hoy! My tone changed. What's wrong? And the second thing that bothered me, the gay guy publicized that I had a crush. So, nakikisama lang sa'yo, kawawa kayo. Ako may gusto din sa'yo. Because of that, I said, forget it. I'm trying to be nice. And you accuse me having a crush on you? What's wrong with you? And my tone of voice changed, right? So I backed off. Sorry na lang. But that's the point. We have to have someone that we should emulate. In fact, we should hang out with those kind of people. I remember one time I heard that there's this kind of retreat. And the thing is, it's in America. Wow. Then I heard that there are Filipinas that are being invited to attend that. I told my wife, you know what? I want to attend. So, mahal naman ang retreat na yan. You have to buy a ticket to attend the retreat. The airplane ticket, not to mention the fee, right? And not to mention the hotel, the everything. Not to mention I have to take my wife, so it's double the fee. Not that she'll shop. That's expensive retreat for me. But I said, I want to attend because I want to meet people who are like-minded. Filipino guys that are willing to spend to study God's Word. So indeed we went. Indeed I met these guys that has the same, who would go to the US, right? To just attend a 3 or 4 day seminar. Bible study, blah, blah. Only guys that are passionate and indeed, when I met them, I met these Filipino guys who traveled also. And we became pretty close. But I don't see them anymore. But if I see them, I know in me, they know in them, we're the same. We're cut with the same mold. We have the same passion. And the thing for us is, we are instructed to be examples of our faith. The question is our faith worth emulating? If our kids sees our faith, is it worth emulating? If people sees our patience, is it worth emulating? If they see our temperament and our temper, is it worth emulating? If they see our heart, is it forgiving? And is it worth emulating? Note, Paul was in prison. He could be the most grumpy person now in the world, being put in jail for standing up for Christ. And I'm sure a lot of people are wrongly accusing him. And he could easily have swung and lived a